Welcome to the That's Good Sports Week 18 Power Rankings episode. I am your football host, Brant. I spelled my name wrong in the script. Just so stupid. Welcome to That's Good Sports, where I, Brad Non-Perna, can't even spell my own name right. It's been a crazy, scary week in the NFL. We're all still thinking about Bills safety Damar Hamlin and hoping he can recover from going into cardiac arrest during Monday Night Football. Out of respect for Damar, his family, the Bills, and the Bengals, I'm giving them the number one spot this week in the power rankings. They didn't get to finish their game, and whoever won that game probably would have been number one anyway. And as we are all genuinely concerned for everyone involved, I thought the best thing to do for this episode was keep them in our thoughts at number one. I will also not do the stupid curse wheel thing this week. That said, the rest of the episode will be par for the course. I kind of need the distraction personally, and maybe that's what you're here looking for as well. Today, we're going to do the top 14 teams in the NFL for Week 18, according to me. That's good sports. Starting at number 14, I've got the Ravens with Lamar Jackson, but right now I'm actually a little bit higher on the Steelers. What do I do? Lamar's health status is still uncertain this week. So, okay, since Pittsburgh just beat Baltimore, I pick it the Steelers. The Steelers have to defeat the Browns this weekend and then need the Dolphins and the Patriots to both lose or tie. So I'm rooting for a Steelers win and both the Patriots and Dolphins to tie, because that would just be the weirdest outcome. TJ Watt said he just started to feel like he's fully recovered from his injury this season, and I think that showed against the Ravens. The Steelers' defense will be what carries that team if they make it into the playoffs, and Kenny Pickett may have just started to click at the right time. I was really impressed with his game-winning drive, and think he can build on that. Number 13, I've got the Seahawks. The Seahawks are in the playoffs if two things happen. If they beat the Rams and the Lions beat the Packers. Now, that doesn't feel impossible, but it's always tough knowing your fate rests in the hands of one of the most inept franchises in NFL history. The Packers. The Lions. If Seattle does manage to get in, they'll most likely get a third and final shot at the 49ers, who swept them in the regular season. I think part of the Seahawks cooling off in the middle of the season has been Kenneth Walker hitting the rookie wall and getting injured. Walker failed to reach 50 yards on the ground from week 10 to 15, but has bounced back with 2 straight 100-yard games, and he's the key to their success in the final week here. Number 12, it's the Buccaneers. Can't believe this team is getting a home playoff game. I mean, I can, but at the same time, I can't. If the Bucs offense can rely on Mike Evans like they did last week, they'll be just as hard to beat as they were a year ago. Then you throw in Jake Camarda, a dynamic rushing threat from the punter spot, and you really have a lot of problems when you're facing Tampa Bay, don't you? But if you shut Mike Evans down, I think this team will lose. And I think most teams have a better secondary than the Panthers without J.C. Horn. The Bucs still cannot run the ball, though. In 16 games, they've only rushed for 1,222 yards, which is the 4th least in the last decade. None of the teams behind them made the playoffs, but then again, none of those teams had the luckiest quarterback to ever play the game QBing them. Did they? Number 11, Patriots. I can't think of a team I'd like to see in the playoffs less. I'm not going to check, but I'm reasonably sure that the Patriots defense has scored more touchdowns than the Patriots offense this season. I mean, Kyle Duggar has 3 touchdowns on his own, which is more than Tyquan Thornton, Kendrick Bourne, Geno Smith, Hunter Henry, Nelson Aguilar, and Devontae Parker. Kyle Duggar has as many touchdowns as most people have in their bathrooms. Why is nobody talking about that stat? The Patriots' regular season finale is against the Buffalo Bills, which will obviously be a strange game for everyone involved. I have no idea and don't really want to speculate on how the Bills will come out and play less than a week after seeing up close what happened to their teammate. But strange or not, it is New England's biggest game of the season, and they need it to grab the 7th seed. Number 10, Vikings. The Eagles went toe-to-toe with the division rival and the Cowboys 2 weeks ago with their backup quarterback. Philly also played it close with the Saints with their backup quarterback. Since you and the Eagles are two teams that have been atop the NFC for most of the season, I expect a lot from you, Minnesota, without excuses, and your complete lack of competitive effort against the Packers is concerning. The Vikings then placed Pro Bowl right tackle Brian O'Neill on IR today, and the same for Austin Schlottman, who was already filling in for the injured Garrett Bradbury. That's certainly not ideal heading into the playoffs, but the Bears will also be starting Nathan Peterman at QB this week, which gives you one game to work this out, Minnesota. Number 9, Giants. If you told me the Giants were in a position where they could rest their starters in Week 18, I'd tell you know what? That's not too far-fetched because Brian Daboll is a really exceptional coach, and I wouldn't be shocked to see him bring the best out of Dan Jones and possibly win Coach of the Year. Speaking of Daniel Jones, his maturation as a player this season has been primarily a matter of what he hasn't done rather than what he has done. He's not putting up gaudy numbers, but the only time he has put up gaudy numbers in his career has been in the turnover department. Jones has committed just 8 turnovers in 16 games this season, with the lowest interception percentage in the NFL. That's in stark contrast to earlier in his career when the ball slipped out of his hands every time he took a breath. Now, I've seen multiple reports that Jones and Saquon Barkley will both receive multi-year extensions this offseason, and if that happens, it's another testament to Daboll. Number 8, Cowboys. Now, it's really interesting if you juxtapose the two 12-4 teams in the NFC right now. The Vikings are 12-4 with, stop me if you've heard this before, especially me earlier this week, a point differential of -19. The Cowboys are also 12-4, but they've outscored their opponents by an astonishing 145 points this season. That's 18 more points than the Eagles. And Dallas, of course, beat the Vikings 40-3. Dallas is clearly a dominant team in the NFC, which will make it even funnier when they get bounced in the wild card round by probably Tom Brady. In all seriousness, I think this team will be a tough draw for whoever gets them in the playoffs if the Cowboys don't manage to sneak into the first seed, which is still a possibility. I don't see the Eagles losing to the Giants in Week 18, but stranger things have happened, and it would totally upend the playoff picture in the NFC if it did, but it's also wild that the Eagles may be playing all of their starters, including an injured Jalen Hurts, while the Giants have the luxury to rest theirs. And they have a worse record than Philly. Number 7, the Packers. I'm going to keep this simple. I just think Green Bay is a dangerous team clicking right now. I trust Aaron Rodgers more than any of the other quarterbacks on this list for the teams I've already named. They're playing smart football in all 3 phases, and it's the right time to start doing that. Number 6, though, Lions. Okay, Detroit, I put you ahead of the Green Bay Packers, but that's because I legitimately believe you are actually a better football team than them right now. I officially announced that DeAndre Swift is back, and just in time. One thing that I've noticed is how well the Lions offense has utilized their tight ends in the red zone, and only in the red zone. Since Detroit moved on from TJ Hawkinson, Jared Goff only targets his tight ends 11.4% of the time, which is 31st in the NFL. In the red zone, though, it's 47.4. Third most. Brock Wright has 4 touchdowns since the trade. Shane Zylstra has 4 with 3 in one game. And James Mitchell has 1, all since the trade. If your tight ends are that reliable in the red zone and your running backs are unstoppable in the red zone and your QB is not making mistakes in the red zone, that's how the Lions have turned into one of the most lethal offenses in the league. May their defense go on the kind of run we inexplicably saw from the Colts in 2006 that got Peyton Manning his first Super Bowl win. Number 5, Chargers. Joey Bosa played 24 snaps in his return to the edge and generated 3 pressures. I think by the wild card round, he'll be back to full speed. The luxury the Chargers have now is the ability to mix it up on the edge with Kyle Van Noy, who has played really well this last month, notching a sack in 4 straight games. It feels like the Chargers defense has turned a corner, propelled by that dominant win against the Miami Dolphins a month ago. My concern? It's that they have looked very good against the Titans, the Colts, and the Rams. Those offenses were 3 of the worst 7 scoring offenses in the NFL right now, and God knows the Rams would be bottom 5 had the Broncos not let them score 51 points on Christmas. Number 4, Eagles. Get Jalen Hurts back in the lineup and you'll be just fine, Philly. I hope his absence, though, has silenced any of his few remaining detractors. He is important to this team. He makes that offense go. Now, you probably know by now the Eagles are 4 sacks away from tying the NFL single-season record of 72 sacks. What I feel has not been talked about enough is free agent signing Hassan Reddick, who not only leads the team in sacks with 16, but is second in the NFL, trailing only Nick Bosa. He also has 5 forced fumbles this season, so thank you, Philly, for making both the Cardinals and the Panthers look stupid for letting him go. More astonishing is that Philly has 4 players with double-digit sacks. Reddick, Javon Hargrave, Josh Sweat, and Brandon Graham. Did I say sweat weird? Josh Sweat. Whew. Using words makes me sweat. Most teams would be lucky to have 2 players with double-digit sacks. Fletcher Cox also has 7 sacks, and what makes them so dangerous on that D-line is that he and Javon Hargrave, who has 11 sacks, are defensive tackles. You rarely see 2 defensive tackles generate that many quarterback sacks. 3, 4, Niners. Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Nick Bosa. What do all of these guys have in common? Yes, they look like their favorite band is Puddle of Mud, Kid Rock, Godsmack, Marilyn Manson, Limp Bizkit, Korn, Papa Roach. But they've all received plenty of praise for the success of this team, and rightfully so. And God help opposing defenses when Deebo Samuel and Elijah Mitchell return. But I think the 49ers have one of, if not the best safety tandems in the NFL in Talanoa Hufanga and Tashawn Gibson. They're both versatile. They're both physical, and Hufanga has 4 picks on the season. Gibson had the game ender last week in overtime. Hufanga is special, but Gibson might be having an even more impressive season. He has 3 interceptions. His reception percentage of 56.7 is tremendous for a safety. And according to Pro Football Focus, his missed tackling percentage is 0. I cannot confirm that, but if he hasn't missed a single tackle all season, name him Defensive Player of the Year right now. Number 2, the Chiefs. All right, Kansas City. All right. Due to everything that has transpired over the last 72 hours, I'm here to play nice and give you the respect you deserve. Patrick Mahomes is still the best quarterback in the NFL, unless he's playing the Broncos. Luckily, you won't see the Broncos in the playoffs, probably for the next 100 years. So hats off to you. Your team is indeed just fine without Tyreek Hill. And honestly, my favorite weapon on your offense right now is Jerick McKinnon. I really think he's the key, outside of Kelsey, obviously, to help give you the edge in the postseason. I will say, had you found a way to keep Tyreek Hill, you'd probably have just 1 loss right now on the season to the Bills. If you look at the Colts game and even the Bengals game, your leading receivers were Juju Smith-Schuster and MVS with 89 and 71-yard performances. I think Hill would have been the difference in those 2 games. And that Kansas City would be the clear-cut best team in the NFL right now. But that trade will pay dividends in the future. Hell, it's already paying dividends on the defense, and you still have as good of a chance as any team to win the Super Bowl with arguably the best, most consistent offense in the NFL, even without Tyreek Hill. Oh God, that was hard. That was hard. And yes, number 1 is going to Damar Hamlin, the Bills, and the Bengals. The number one spot in these silly power rankings is reserved for the team that I think is the best every week. And I think what the Bengals and the Bills players demonstrated in a very tough moment is the best we have in sports in terms of how much these guys care about each other. DeMar, you are in everyone's thoughts, and every day we are rooting for you and sending you our love. Thanks for watching the Week 18 Power Rankings here on That's Good Sports. Please take care of yourself, take care of your family, treat each other with some love and some respect, and yeah, that's it. That's it.